Your puny schmelling balls are no match for mine.
You really think you're fast enough?
That's what the gas is for.
Okay, and that's bleach batter. Okay, you've made mustard gas.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to seeing if we can beat Plants vs. Zombies 2 with only Parasites. Previously, we were able to complete virtually all of ancient Egypt using only Tomb Tangler and Vampircini, and we actually got past the initial first Sun requirement mission on day 13 of Pirate Seized with only Sundew Tangler. However, our problems were only just beginning, as day 19 was another Sun requirement mission, and as I soon realized due to another creator's challenge, that beating this day's Sun requirement with Sundew Tangler alone is mathematically impossible, and we needed another sun-producing parasite. Now, I did come up with a solution for this, but first I want to discuss the big idea that other people had, and that was Sunbeam. People were arguing that this could be considered as a parasite, as they believed the bean itself, causing the zombie to drop sun, was seen as how it was reproducing inside of the zombie, causing it to leak sun because of it. I think this is a similar argument to imp pear, being it morphs the zombie into something else, and in turn makes it more susceptible to repeated dosages of the imp pear, but largely I can't guarantee that the sun bean is reproducing itself, and that the sun is not just an excretion of its natural function. However, I did end up trying to beat the day with Sundew Tangler and Sunbean, and I struggled quite a bit. So I decided just for once, if I use walnuts, you can actually meet the sun requirement for this day, so it is mathematically possible, but it's very generous. Fortunately, I did come up with another sun producer who I actually feel falls more under the definition of a parasite than Sunbean, and that is our old overpowered friend, Solar Sage.
What is it? Stay there. I'm coming.
Now, a lot of you guessed that Solar Sage could be counted as a parasite, but very few people actually correctly guessed why. Basically, Solar Sage is a mind that mentally takes over a zombie and causes it to walk in the opposite direction, dropping sun along the way. That alone isn't parasitic. However, what makes it parasitic is the fact that the zombie that it was turned into has the chance of turning other zombies into sages as well, making it infectious and in turn making Solar Sage a microparasite. However, like the Summoner playthrough, I only plan on using Solar Sage on missions where it's absolutely necessary, as even though I'm in for a much harsher fight than that, there are sun production days where I can still get by using only Sundew Tangler, like day 20, where if I just spam them and boost them at the right time, we got it the first try. Day 21, the third sun production day in a row, which we once again have to use Solar Sage for, not only as it is only one huge wave day, but it is also defeat 5 zombies in 5 seconds, which Sundew Tangler just is not up to the task for. And then we get to day 22, and this is the same day I struggled on greatly, even with the Summoner playthrough, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought this was gonna be the end of the challenge here, as it's a plan your defense mission with 90% of the attackers being cannons that repeatedly shoot out massive waves of extremely violent go-juice addicted toddlers right into your back lines. Now, in normal playthroughs, there are limitless ways to beat this world. However, after extensive testing and previous playthroughs, I am completely certain there is not a single combination of Spore Shroom and Vampircini that wins this day. So naturally, that means I'm going back to looking for more possible parasites, and the first idea was Imp Pear, considering it as a parasite for the same reason Sunbean is, as it turns any zombie that eats it into an imp and causes any imp that eats it to shard itself to death. The debate on whether or not Imp Pear is a parasite is not needed for now though, as I wasn't able to beat it with it anyways. So my next stop was Perfume Shroom, someone suggested it to me, as it manipulates dinosaurs into doing its bidding, and unlike Hypno Shroom, it isn't eaten by the dinosaur. As of a recent update, it also spawns a raptor to help if there are no other dinosaurs on the field. The raptor did not help early enough to call it worth it though, so then we officially busted out the cauliflower and enchantment. You can call both of these social parasites, as they manipulate other organisms into doing their bidding, and they don't benefit the zombie in any way with this action, and once again, like Hypno Shroom, they aren't being consumed by the zombie, so they aren't psychedelics. And even with the enchantment buffed cauliflowers, they just have absolutely no AoE to defend against the imps. So I was officially entering into the desperation mode, and tried to rationalize some stupid argument in my head that Kiwi Beast could count as a parasite, as it requires a zombie to attack it in order to get stronger. I was able to win with this, stay with it, but Kiwi Beast clearly isn't a parasite. However, after searching through pretty much the entire almanac multiple times, I came across a plant that I would count as a parasite for this mission, and that plant is Daisy Chain.
Daisy
Daisy, give me your
mustard gas.
Now, Daisy Chain is a pretty interesting plant with a few gimmicks, but let me explain why it can be seen as a parasite. Daisy Chain is a standard shooting plant that actually grows over time, each growth cycle causing it to do more damage, and also releasing a plume of stunning gas. It also releases periodically mustard gas after it reaches its final stage. However, what makes it parasitic is that it only grows when it's attacking zombies or zombie items. Not ending them or getting the last hit, but merely dealing damage to zombies is enough to cause Daisy Chain to grow, and it needs to do this to grow as well. Thus, we are looking at a leech-like creature or a false cleaner fish, both of which function as ectoparasites. All in all, I see it perfectly fit to count Daisy Chain, and going all in with it, they were exactly what I needed to beat this day. Moving on, day 23, we have another Don't Trample the Flowers, and beat 8 zombies in 10 seconds. And I did fail this the first time just due to Vampircini not being fast enough, but round 2 we just spammed Sundew Tangler, had Vampircini pre-placed, and our new friend Daisy Chain dealt with everything else. Day 24, protect 2 spring beans, and once again I failed it the first time because I didn't budget the sun well enough, but the second time around I corrected that little error and we made it out just fine. And with day 25 being us just throwing it back for Zomboss while he screams at me telling me to stop ruining Thanksgiving, we were officially done with Pirate Seas. Moving on to Wild West with our team of 5-1, because we still can't use Tomb Tangler, we do pretty much the identical thing I did on the Summoner only playthrough in regards to Spore Shroom, and that is, I just put Spore Shroom on a minecart and bait the zombie into walking all the way back before turning him, so I can get an entire free column of free Spore Shrooms. And it actually becomes even easier with the help of Sundew Tangler, as it changes standard unarmored zombies into having only 1 shot left for them, allowing us to more precisely get the Spore Shroom spawn wherever I want. And that's overall how it went the first several days, with nothing of any significant note happening until day 6, and that's only because it's a play in your defense day with the heavily armored zombies, but with a fully upgraded Daisy Chain with its consistent damage and its stuns, and 3 Spore Shrooms helping out whatever lane needs them, we were able to get through it perfectly fine. Day 7 went identically to most of the other days, Spore Shroom and Sundew Tangler rush, you know the rest, and day 8 was the ultimate battle, mandatory skip.
Remember me, Jake?
No.
Day 9 is survive with the given plants. Sunbeam gives out his nudes randomly and has a court case on February 12th, 2026 because of it. Day 10 started off well, but then I remembered that this is the day that releases Chicken Zombie. And it may seem pretty grim because Spore Shroom, Daisy Chain, and Sundew can all only target a single chicken at once. However, this is where Vampircini actually comes in clutch, because on top of his initial placement dealing AoE damage, when plant fooded he actually does that blow attack indefinitely, allowing him to serve as a mobile chicken blender, thus saving the whole day from Chicken Zombie. Day 11, another 500 Sunday. We make a single Spore Shroom and beat the entire day effortlessly. Day 12 was a Doo-Doo Corral mission conveyor belt. Day 13 was supposed to be the introduction of Bull Imps, but they were stun-locked so viciously by the Daisy Chains and Sundew Tanglers that they couldn't even have a chance to buck the Imps off. Day 14 was a whole bunch of chicken zombies, but they are rendered totally irrelevant by the Vampircini defense script I had set up. I was actually glad I spent the time to get this thing now, as he ended up saving our skin in Wild West. Day 15 was don't lose more than 2 plants, and that disqualifies Spore Shroom, so we just ended up using Daisy Chain and Sundew Tangler, because for some reason Sundew Tangler is literally immortal. Day 16 was protect an endangered walnut on a minecart, which you're supposed to use to stall the waves while you prepare and buck bull zombies off, but I ended up just letting a lawnmower go and played through the rest of the day rather easily. Day 17, another Don't Trample the Flowers, but I forgore the first time, but next time, I shamelessly spammed free Spore Shrooms before changing my spam to Daisy Chain and Sundew Tangler, watching my forces stutter step the zombies so perfectly once again the bulls couldn't even get on the stage. Day 18 was the infamous Plan Your Defenses mission for my Summoner only playthrough. However, this time around we have more than an adequate simple solution for both the chickens and the prospectors, and with my Daisy Chains in the back and my Vampircinis charging up their nano machines in the front to insta-zap the chickens, we won this day first try.
You can't hurt me,
Chicken jockey!
Day 19, lose no more than 2 plants and spend no more than 2,000 sun. The solution here is pretty easy. We just pop the 2 back lanes full of Daisy Chains and then have 1 Sundew Tangler to help get any armored zombie closer to death. Day 20, conveyor belt mission. Sundew Tangler has a side job shoving cat girls into a wood chipper. Day 21 is don't trample the flowers and don't spend more than 1,750 sun. We all know where this is going. I spore shroom economic inflation to my way to victory. Day 22, survive with the given plants. Half-Life 3 is never coming out. Day 23, don't lose more than 2 plants or trample the flowers. Horrible time to get a spore shroom, and I promptly lost the first time because of it. But one quick correction later, and we were back on track with Daisy Chain, and had to generate a whole Vamperchini defense grid just in case. Day 24 was the big heart of the Wild West. A triple protection mission of walnut minecarts, and we have chicken zombies coming too, along with early game hordes, meaning we had to not only set up a secondary defense grid while protecting the walnuts, but also have adequate shooters to deal with the hordes before they finish off our walnuts. This took quite a few tries, and I had conceded to just giving up my first lawnmowers to try and appease the situation economic-wise. The eventual solution, though, was after I got my Vamperchini nanomachines grid set up, was to stack the walnuts on top of each other, and giving some Enclave power armor with a plant food, so my other plants had adequate time to murder everything. And with day 25 being the boss day, I gave Zomba some non-consensual sock therapy, and we were done with the Wild West.
Do it!
Laser deploy.
And then we move on to Frostbite Caves, the next real challenge of our playthrough. Frostbite Caves' main gimmick is that it will frequently cause snowstorms to appear, which will freeze plants and require them to either be heated up or shot out. However, we don't have any warm plants currently, and we also don't have any plants that can shoot behind themselves, so if I have a plant that freezes in the back lane, it's pretty much screwed. Fortunately, Sundew Tangler continues to be immune to everything, including freezing, for some reason. Thus, our strategy early game will be trying to get as many Sundew Tanglers on the board as possible, as not only do they help with the sun, kind of, but they're also capable of dealing with armored zombies relatively well, usually only needing 2 or 3 doses to take out bucket heads or cone heads. Day 6 introduces the first variant of the new challenge of plants, picked for you, as most of them are picked for us, but we are still well able to complete the day with only 2 or 3 plant slots, with me choosing Sundew Tangler and Daisy Chain to blast through the level. Day 7 was a bit of the same as how we've been faring with nothing important to say, and Day 8 was a conveyor bot level. However, Day 9 introduces one of the biggest problems of this world, being the Dodo Rider Imp. It's like a small zombie riding a large chicken. I don't really think there's a name for it though. Anyways, what makes them dangerous is that on top of having decently good health, capable of taking down both my lane shooters if they aren't shooting at them as soon as they arrive, but they can also fly over the tiles that divert the zombies into other lanes. All in all, they're pretty dangerous, mainly because my daisy chains are constantly getting reset due to all the cold snaps that come in, causing me to dig them up and immediately replant them afterwards. However, making it to day 11, I was still pushing my way through on them, barely edging out another win on the first try, which is exactly what day 12 wasn't. Day 12 was rough. It was a plan your defense mission, and given the Arctic cold, I figured I could just do the same thing I did with Tiger Grass with hit and run tactics, but very quickly I felt the equally cold wind of reality hit me, as my plants were not nearly as powerful as the Summoner playthrough once again. My daisy chains are not strong enough at level 1 to handle this, and due to all this stupid Nordic Skyrim ice, most of the daisy chains don't even make it to level 3. Sundew Tangler wouldn't have helped me with the Imp Riders, but they could have at least eaten the armor zombies, but unfortunately it's considered a Sun Producer, and therefore it isn't allowed for this mission. That left me really with only Daisy Chain, Vamperchini, and Spore Shroom. I tried tactically placing Spore Shroom behind Daisy Chain so it could attack the Imp Riders even if the Daisy Chains got frozen, but pretty much every formation I tried with them just wasn't enough. And after about 12 tries, I threw in the towel and started looking for another Parasite. Fortunately, I didn't have to take too long looking, as Cauliflower and Enchantment, who I already mentioned could both be argued as social parasites, or at least Cauliflower can. I don't know, if you want me to redo this day without Enchantment, I still think it counts, but I don't mind being thorough. However, even with these 2 plants, I was just barely able to squeeze through this fight, but nevertheless we had made it through the big hard day of Frostbite Caves. Day 13. I don't remember if this is the first introduction of the Gargantuar in Frostbite Caves, but he has a handful of imps instead of just one, and that's about it to his significance. It's worth noting at this point that I still have no cut and dried way of busting Gargantuars, but fortunately I remembered that I could auto-activate lawnmowers towards the end of this day. Day 14, another survive with the given plant, so I'm just going to update you on my theory. I'm over halfway done writing it. As a matter of fact, it might even be the next long-form video I post if I rush through it. Day 15 was a bit of a doozy, largely due to it being my own fault though, so it's a defend the plants mission, And rather fortunately, it's pepper pults in the corners, meaning I can have daisy chains without them freezing every few seconds. However, we still have the imp riders to deal with, and the fact that the zombies will come more quickly on this wave, meaning I have to make sure the pepper pults are protected as fast as possible. I knew the solution, and it was Vampercini, but I kept failing to get them in time because I wanted to have all my daisy chains down, even though this map has an obnoxious amount of armor. Nevertheless, after several tries, which it totally didn't need to be this many, I finally passed through the day. Day 16 was the mandatory Ultimate Battle Day conveyor belt mission, click here to add title. Day 17 just had some already frozen plants for us, and unfreezing them, they did help out a little bit, but ultimately I think we had probably had this one in the bag, regardless, so we got through it the first try. And day 18 was poop conveyor, so I started electrocuting the general population in a dangerously cheesy way. Day 19 was a most plants picked for us, but this time with 3 slots, but since I've only been really using Sundew Tangler and Daisy Chain anyways, we just played through it pretty easily. And with day 20 being the Neanderthal zombie's big opening, not realizing that my Sundew Tangler also blocks him from advancing with his ice imps, they were very quickly degraded and defeated, just standing as basically another glorified buckethead or ice head. And we got through the day pretty well, and it was here that I decided to call it for now, as we had gotten through all of the big stumps of the challenge so far, and I was now thinking that the Parasites challenge was going to be fully beatable now in its entirety though, at a significantly higher difficulty than my Summoner playthrough. But if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please leave me a comment down below telling me your thoughts as well as what you would like to see next, both Plants vs. Zombies and otherwise. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing as I upload new long-form content every week and new shorts most every day encapsulating variety content, including challenges, guides, memes, audience participation, playthroughs, and even theories. Also, consider joining the Discord with the link in the description as well as the pinned comment to become part of the show. But with all that being said, thank you all again so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.